Gabdolla Tokai is a great Tatar poet. His poetic talent is scaled to the genius of Abai and Pushkin. Childhood of Tokai was not easy. The future poet orphaned early, and his aunt took him for bringing up at the time she lived in Uralsk. Here his poetic felicity appeared. Tokai left Uralsk in 1907, and almost 100 years later, in 2006, the name of the Tatar poet sounded in Uralsk with a bang. Here the museum was opened.
Музеев Тукая, особенно в Татарстане, много. Но
There are many museums of Tokai, especially in Tatarstan. However, in the building which visited or where lived Tokai or has ever been, no. But he lived 12 years in Uralsk, and all 12 years he visited this building.
12 лет он жил. И все 12 лет бывал вот в этом здании.
In Uralsk, Tokai was educated in the madrasa, where Imam Mutiola Tuhwatulin taught. The Imam drew attention to the capable boy and began to invite him for visits. Gabdolla was a welcomed guest at the house of Tuhwatulins. Over the next 12 years, the future poet read books here, learned the basics of poetry, and even studied astronomy. A scientist of Uralsk, doctor of education, Razak Abuzarov made a great contribution to the popularization of the name Tokai. The idea to open a museum of the poet in Uralsk belonged to him. The professor is sure that Tokai formed as a talented writer in Uralsk.
Здесь он готовил газету «Фикр».
Here he prepared the paper, Fikr, in translation from the Tatar, Thought, which had a circulation of 5,000 copies up to 3 times a week. It is a great circulation for those times.
Это для того времени огромнейший тираж.
For a long time, the name of Tokai was half forgotten in Uralsk, and the house of Tuhwatulins, which the poet liked to visit, was in disrepair. It was only through the efforts of Professor Razak Abuzarov and the head of the Tatar Cultural Center, Rishad Hayrulin, a unique house has been preserved and turned into a museum.
На сегодняшний день музей, конечно, обновляет по возможности.
Today, the museum renews its possible exhibitions, expositions, and of course, limitless interest appears to Tokai from the Tatars, from the residents of our city.
Татар со стороны жителей нашего города.
For admirers and lovers of the great Tatar poet, this museum is almost a place of pilgrimage. In a relatively short period, the Uralsk Museum of Gabdolla Tokai gained international fame.
На сегодняшний день музей Габдоллы Токая это
Today, the Museum of Gabdolla Tokai is not just pride of Tatar people of Trans-Urals. This is the pride of the whole Tatar people in the world, because not every region of the world can boast that Gabdolla Tokai spent conscious 12 years in their city. In this regard, of course, we were infinitely lucky.
А нам в этом плане, конечно, безгранично повезло.
Thanks to the efforts of scientists, patrons of arts, and ordinary admirers, creative works of Gabdolla Tokai get growing popularity in Kazakhstan. Recently, the Museum Fund added another very valuable material, a new translation of selected works of Tokai into the Kazakh language. In the role of the interpreter was a Kazakh journalist and writer Mirzagali Kurmanov.
До этого нам были известны стихи.
Before that, we knew poems of Tokai in the Kazakh language only in translation of Kadir Mirzaliyev. Today, the man made a translation of another book and made donation of it to the museum. Today, the book has a great success. The students of the West Kazakhstani Humanitarian University make use of this book and prepare their graduation works according to it.
По этой книге к дипломной работе.
A short and surprisingly bright life of Gabdolla Tokai broke almost at lamented age, 26 years. Shortly before his death, a dead sick poet visited Kazakhstan again, at this time in order to improve his health by kumis. His works have had a tremendous impact on the entire Tatar literature, and speaking of the poet, the fans of Tokai certainly remember Kazakhstan, where the young classic spent perhaps the best years of his life.